Yeah. So, thank you for joining us. This session today, we're touching base with this idea of forming a different relationship with our problems. This was the email for this week, and inspired by Thich Nhat Hanh, who asks us to treat our problems like children. You know, if we have a house full of kids and are ignoring what they're up to all the time, it's not going to take too long before the house is in chaos and turmoil and there's problems everywhere and the problems get a lot worse. And that's quite obvious, you know, we're not going to neglect children in our house, but we do neglect our inner experiences at times. You know, we're quite habitually tuned to overlook certain things if we don't like them about ourselves, or if we interpret emotions or situations to be more problematic than they are, we might avoid them. It might be that we've been conditioned by society to ignore or to not pay attention to certain feelings and states. But what that leads to is a narrowing of our world, if you like. If we ignore parts of ourselves, parts of our experience, then we kind of run out of inner space. We shut too many corridors in our mind, and we end up in a little small room with a very limited experience because we're afraid, or we don't know how, or we've been told not to go and look through the rest of the house. And we've all, I guess, got our own things inside that we find difficult about ourselves. Maybe that we're embarrassed about, maybe we're ashamed of, maybe we would rather not have. Certainly, emotional experiences can be quite overwhelming at times, and it's the nature of some of those emotions to feel like we are in the wrong with them. You know, like anxiety feels like there's something wrong and we have to change it. Um, you know, anger, I have to act out of my anger because this is what the energy's for. So what mindfulness can do for us in terms of emotions, it's about listening to ourselves. It's about being aware of what's going on. And because of the subconscious mind is most of what we experience, but we can't see it. We only get the 20% on top, which is our conscious experience, but we do get subconscious information through the body, through things like emotions. So I can I can sit here and tell you all that, oh no, I don't get nervous before I speak publicly, but I can say one thing, but if I'm then approaching my body, if I'm nervous about talking, my body is going to demonstrate that for me. It's like I will start to feel tight-chested, my thoughts will narrow a little bit, I'll start to sort of have self-doubt, those kinds of things. So the encouragement is to get to know ourselves better, so to get to see into this sort of unconscious kind of realm. Then we're asked to look at things like our reactions and our emotions, because they give us a not necessarily what is sort of universally true, but our own inner truth, and they'll reveal a a facet of our conditioning that perhaps is a little bit of a knot. It might be something that you experience sort of regularly, a certain reaction to a certain type of comment, to a certain thing in the news, to a certain way you're treated. I'm just going to let somebody in the room. So we're looking for sort of habitual patterns that can sort of dominate and overwhelm us. We don't, the odd one-off thing, no problem. But if we're having continual reactions, emotional reactions, that's a good opportunity to look inside, and remembering that we're not trying to get rid of the emotions, we're actually getting to know them. That's the whole point. To the degree that we're able to face them and to know them. In mindfulness, we'll do it in a practice like rain, where we notice the emotion as sensations, we notice it as thoughts, we notice it as other feelings, we notice it as what kind of stories or beliefs are sitting underneath it. So we take what is essentially something like anxiety, which is an all-consuming kind of ball of discomfort, and we start to examine it. Instead of resisting it, instead of pushing it away, we treat it like a child. We ask it, what can I do for you? How can I help you? What do you need me to see? Remembering that emotions are essentially our messages. So whether it's our body talking to us. So this is the sort of framework in which we are going to approach this meditation today. So we'll work, I think, with emotions, but you can choose any kind of difficulty. It might be a difficult thought, a difficult situation. And what we're going to do is do our best. We don't want to pick anything that is like above a 6 out of 10 on the scale. If 10 is maximum, pick something that's a little easier to manage, something that won't necessarily topple you off or create too much emotional turmoil. Coming from the PT background that I have, I use the analogy of lifting weights. We go into the gym and we train with a weight that we can lift quite a few times. And in that way, the body adapts and we get stronger. Whereas if you go in and try and lift the heaviest weight off the floor, you'll probably injure yourself. So the same is true with this inner work. We need to do it in such a way that's manageable. I always say start light and build your way up. And we're going to explore our emotional landscape. We're going to look for any particular difficulties that might be related to certain incidences, and we'll bring some breath, some healing, and some awareness to those difficulties. So this will take the form of a rain meditation. So most of you will be reasonably familiar with that. So if nobody has any questions, then I'd like to begin the meditation. But if you do, please let me know now and we will answer those before we begin. Just remembering that position-wise and posture-wise with the meditation, if your priority is to relax, then it might be helpful to lay down and be comfortable. If your priority is to increase awareness and go through the sort of emotional kind of tour that we're doing, then it's probably better to stay upright. It's always a bit tricky to stay awake in a meditation at this time of day anyway, but laying down will certainly induce that a little bit more. Okay, so here we are. I'll start with the bell. Just noticing the sound as it fades away. Noticing it's very natural for sounds to arise and to pass all by themselves. And we can treat any other sounds during the meditation in the same way. Noticing as they arise and instantly fall away again. Even the sound of my voice arising and falling. Is it possible to notice the silence in between the words? Or even underneath the words? Noticing how all sounds emerge from this field of silence and fall back into it instantly. Always changing the soundscape around us. And bringing that awareness a little bit closer to notice the breath, the breathing body. Noticing the sensations of the breath. However they appear, maybe air coming in and out of the nose, or the rising and falling of the chest, the belly. And what is the evidence of the breath? How do I know that I'm breathing? And breathing in a way that is soothing for you. This may be just breathing very naturally, just observing the natural flow of the breath, or it may be that we're a little bit more deliberate with the breath, deepening and softening the breath. And we notice when the mind wanders, which it does, which it will. We notice when the mind wanders and we don't judge or make any fuss. We simply notice that this is what the mind does. This is a moment of mindfulness and should be celebrated, that we're aware that we were lost in thinking. And right now we're present. We're present and we find the breath. We find the sensations of the breath. And we rest with the breath. Moment by moment. Noticing the beginning and the middle and the end of the inhale. and the beginning and the middle and the end of the exhale. And we have permission to let everything else go. No thinking required, no effort required, no expectation. Simply observing the breath as it naturally comes in and out of the body. And letting go of any forcing of the breath. Just coming back to that natural in and out, the organic breath. And bringing our attention more to the exhale, and in particular, how the body feels, how the body changes as we breathe out. Noticing what happens to the brow, to the jaw, to the shoulders, to the chest. As we soften and exhale, the body naturally wants to relax in that moment. Can we surrender to that exhale? Go with it completely. And using this place as our home. This is where we come back to every time the mind wanders into thinking or story mode or analysis. Every time the mind forgets that it's meditating and wanders into shopping or planning, we simply let go of that thought as quickly as we can and gently return our awareness back to this breathing body, tuning into the sensations and finding that settledness of the exhale. A nice phrase in mindfulness is to start where you are. Start where you are. We don't have to get anywhere. The experience that we're having right now is perfect for mindfulness. This experience that we're having right now doesn't need to change. If we can allow And we're opening up to our experience on a deeper level. We're noticing if there's any difficulties. We're recognizing something within us in this moment that we may consider a problem, may consider a difficulty, a challenge, something that we'd rather not have. Perhaps something that we're used to shutting down or treating harshly or ignoring. Just recognizing that this is already here. And we're already dealing with it. So recognizing this difficulty, maybe a bit of anxiety, maybe a bit of self-doubt, maybe some unprocessed anger, maybe irritation or annoyance, self-judgment, some part of us that we're ashamed of. So just opening the door and recognizing that this is here. And our next step, when we recognize the problem, the difficulty, is just to see if it's got any friends. Are there other things, other difficulties that coincide with this? Maybe a certain behavior that we turn to when we experience a certain emotion. Maybe we get a little bit ratty with our loved ones. Maybe we feel that we don't or aren't living optimally in some way. Noticing that this is all part of this experience. And we're invited to allow, to drop that resistance to the degree that we're able to give space to this difficulty. Noticing what it's like to drop the armor a little bit, drop the resistance. We might even stretch towards treating this difficulty like a child, like a young child within us. So we do so with compassion, with warmth, with hope. And the next stage in a rain meditation is to recognize, to allow, and to investigate. So this is more like a curious scientist than a CID copper. And what is this experience? What is it made of? This difficulty, how does it present? How does it make itself known in the body? Where is it? Is it in the belly or the chest? Is it a facial expression? Maybe it's something like temperature. Or a trembling. And what's it like to breathe alongside this experience? We're just noticing the physical presence of this difficulty. We're allowing it to be here and we're giving it space. We're breathing alongside it. Allowing it to change if it needs to, but not forcing it to. And if only for this very next moment can we allow it to be here. Bringing our attention to the feelings or emotions around this difficulty. This can be felt in the body, in the mind. Some kind of feeling or emotional component. There's often layers with feelings or constellations of emotions. Here we're not judging the emotions. They're simply part of the scenery. So just noticing what is present right now. In the realm of emotions and feelings with this difficulty. And if we simply sit with that emotion, breathing alongside it, we're giving it space and we're giving ourselves space. And bringing our awareness of this difficulty and how it presents in thoughts. This includes those things that the mind says about this problem. What's the mental imagery? Is there a picture, an image, or is it closer to comments or narration? Maybe we can't recognize any thoughts, and that's perfectly okay, perfectly normal. What kind of mental activity is associated with this difficulty? What is playing on the screen of our minds in this moment? And again, without judgment, as a curious scientist, can we observe that, allow and give space to this mental experience? Breathing alongside it. Noticing how it changes. And the invitation is to either go back through with those sensations, emotions, and thoughts, exploring with curiosity again what it's like to be here experiencing this. Or we can focus our awareness a little bit deeper and become curious about any beliefs, that we're carrying about this. And erroneous or unhelpful beliefs are often accompanied by a should or a shouldn't. I shouldn't feel this way. I should know better. I should have done this. I shouldn't have done that. Or we look for absolutes like always and must. I always do this. They never treat me this way. Those kind of black and white styles of thinking that are very, very rarely accurate. Or the shoulds that completely deny reality. They deny what is happening in this moment, saying it shouldn't be here. or something else should be? Are we carrying any of those beliefs? Probably. And we don't have to change them. As long as we can see them, then they have less power. They can be a little less convincing. And can we breathe with that experience? And in whatever way feels right to you, just letting go of that focus, that introspective kind of curiosity, letting go of the need to see or work anything out in particular, just coming back to rest with the breath, just receiving the breath, nothing to do. As we are. Nothing is wrong. So we're either having a peaceful experience or we're having a difficult experience. And when we learn to accept and to not judge these difficult experiences, then they too can become more peaceful. We stop fighting. Stop fighting with what is already happening. And as we come toward the end of the practice, it's helpful to dedicate and acknowledge the benefits of the meditation, recognizing that this time we spend isn't self-indulgent, it's looking at how we can manage our emotional experiences, our reactions, in such a way that brings more peace into the world. If we're more at peace with ourselves, then we are more at peace with others. And that the ripples, the benefits of this practice ripple out from us to those that we meet on a daily basis, to strangers that we bump into, and ripple out from those people into other people. Simply by turning toward our difficulties instead of running away from them. Lovely. That's the end of the meditation.